Well, hello there, everyone. Mystery here, and we are there again. We are at the end of the year. We have gone one more full time around the sun, and Darktide is 1 year older, and 1 year the better, I think. I'll make a different video to do a retrospective on this year at some point, but I just wanted to summarize what's gone on this year for Darktide. It's pretty much been the year of the class. We have had both the spring and fall update devoted to reworking and rebalancing all of the four original classes, and then both summer and winter were for new classes, the Hive Scum and the Arbites, that came out this year, which is very impressive. I mean, I didn't expect a new class coming to this game at all, and then I was caught off guard again by the fact that they were ready 6 months later, which was pretty crazy to pump out a second class. So that is why I say that this is the year of the class. It was really all about that. There was very minimal content otherwise, and I would be remiss to not put my wishes out there in the world to hopefully get the agreement of the community that, while classes are great and all, and listen, I'm not going to look a gift horse in the mouth, this was way better than the previous years have been for Darktide, and I'm really seeing like positive steps in the right direction. At the same time, there are still some really, really big issues that this game faces going forwards, and yeah, they definitely need to be addressed. So this video is going to be all about the top 5 things that Fatshark needs to bring to Darktide in 2026. So contrary to how most people are on their top 5s, I'm not gonna like clickbait you and try to attention economy you into staying around to the last little bit here. I'm gonna let you know right now, I'm gonna put the most pressing, the hardest issue for seemingly for Fatshark to solve right here at the beginning, just to call it out, because like it's gotten to the point of absurdity in my personal opinion, and both of these first two here are just super duper important, and they would revolutionize the game and its perception to players, and it would really like help to not bleed as many players if we can get these addressed. And then we'll move our way down to less pressing things, to things that like are more optional or flavor based, and things I would like to have in the game, but these first couple are things that we need. And that means that starting with number 1, I mean, you've already guessed it, right? If you've played Darktide for any amount of time, you know the number 1 thing that needs to happen to this game. It's stability and performance. Like, these are issues that this game has always been plagued by. It performs terribly. It chugs on even like medium high-end PCs really struggle with this game. Though the game is like does have some pretty high graphical fidelity, it's not that crazy, right? There's no real excuse for how poorly this game runs. And in addition to it really running poorly, it seems to just kind of fluctuate from patch to patch. Your individual performance, your performance may vary based on what patch you're in. And then, of course, you've got endless bugs and endless crashes. It seems like every time a crash or a bug is fixed in a patch, 2 more crop up. And it's just really exhausting, because that is the sort of thing, like crashes and bugs like that are the sort of thing that will kill players' enjoyment just dead, like deader than anything else, because it's nothing to do with the game itself. Like, dying in the game is one thing, getting owned by something that's imbalanced or whatever is part of the game. But what isn't part of the game is being ripped out of your experience, ripped out of your actual engaging with the challenge, and just being dumped back to the menu because the game couldn't handle loading you or whatever it is. And it's just so strange, because other games, even other games in the same engine, which by the way, Stingray is the engine that this game uses, and Helldivers 2 uses this engine. So I just don't understand how this game seems to perennially have such issues with stability and with crashes and with bugs like this. My fear is that because Stingray is a little bit of an obsoleted engine at this point, I think it's well confirmed that Fatshark is working on another game that is not going to be using this engine, because no one is learning this engine anymore. So hiring new developers that have experience in it is like pretty much a no-go. and you can only learn as well as your teacher knows, more or less. So if they're hiring new talent on, as old talent moves out of the studio and goes on to other stuff, as commonly happens, then all the new talent they hire on is only going to be able to learn all the stuff that the people that are still there know. And therefore, there's just going to be some stuff lost to time in terms of like, massaging and combing through the spaghetti. And I think that a lot of Darktide's code is very much spaghettified. It is endlessly complicated, where affecting one little thing seems to have very large ramifications for a myriad of other systems, which is less than ideal when you're trying to make simple changes, which probably also bogs down the development process. But yeah, like I can't think of any other games where my matches are routinely interrupted with getting DC'd like 2 or 3 times in a match, and it seems to come and go with the patches, but I feel like other games, I can lag in them for a second and then I'll reconnect. In this game, if I have even 1 millisecond or my internet isn't like rock solid, it just kicks my ass. It gives me an error code 2004 and sends me to the main menu. And it's just really, really, really difficult to play with that going on, because there's nothing that will kill your enjoyment like that sort of thing. So that's why that has to be number one. It like literally has to be number one on the list, because that is what's turning players away, especially when we're talking about performance. Xbox, I can't even imagine what it's like for Xbox and PS5 players. This game performed terribly when I had a 3070, and now I have a PC that's blessed by the Omnissiah, and I still have performance issues from time to time. So yeah, they should really focus a lot of resources, if they can, to getting this stuff streamlined and getting it more playable, because that is what's going to bleed your players more than almost anything else. In the number 2 slot, or I don't know if we're even ordering these, the second most important thing, the thing that needs to be focused on right after they get done optimizing and making this game run perfectly on every machine ever, is quality of life and mod integration, or what I would say current mod features need to be integrated as baseline features for this game. This is something that I really have been harping on since the Hive Scum came out, and I was put into default UI mode for a while. The UI for this game is just terribly dated and useless to a lot of players. This game is very, very different than when it launched, right? This game is not a tactical cover-based horde shooter. This game is a mile a minute, absolutely massive hordes, chaos everywhere. You need readability, you need transparency, so like UI mods that indicate exactly how much health and ammo and stuff your team has just seems so essential. There's a ton of jank stuff about the UI. There's a ton of like on-screen effects that need to be toggle offable. Yeah, just a myriad of quality of life mods that exist out there that should just be wrapped into the core experience. And I'm not calling for health bars or scoreboards or anything like that. I'm talking about the really, really baseline stuff that would bring a lot of value to players, such as being able to turn off really garish, glaring on-screen effects, such as being able to interact with enemies in the Psychanium, such as being able to move elements of your HUD so you're not looking all the way in the bottom right corner to see your tiny little buffs and all that stuff. Whatever it is, there's a ton of mods out there. They are working. I mean, clearly they are working to integrate some of these. They are definitely taking ideas from these mod authors. We've seen about 3 different things integrated over the past 2 patches from mod origins, and that's great. But it needs to be a focal point, because yeah, that the game is just already frustrating enough to play without it just being needlessly obtuse and difficult to read. And while you're at it, guys, if you could remove the overbearing green filter that like non-reshade players play with, that would be great as well. So yeah, there's a big demand there. I think that personally for me, the real part about it is like this game, it's you don't realize it until you play with mods, and maybe you do, but like so much of what is frustrating and illegible about it is fixed with those mods. It is made more, it's made into a better game by their inclusion. And more, I feel like the core fundamental experience of playing the game is based around having some of these modifications that like enable you to actually like make impactful choices and stuff. And so I want that brought to a larger swath of players. And speaking of that, we can actually use one of these mods to make a point about something that should be brought. And that particular mod that I'm talking about here is called True Level. True Level is a really simple mod. It is in fact so simple and works so well, it has to be incorporated in the game's base code, because all it does is it just checks the player's profiles to see how much XP they have on any given character, and then it displays that. So you can see the amount of XP that not only you have, but every other character has, and it's displayed in the form of levels as if you had continued to gain them after you reached that normal 30 maximum. So instead of what you have these days, where you level up to 30 and then you sit for the rest of your lifetime with your level permanently stuck at 30, you can actually level beyond that, cosmetically only though. You'll be able to see that certain players have hundreds, if not thousands, of effective levels. And that is aspirational, I think, for a lot of players who are just starting. It signals to them that, like, wow, there is a reason to continue to play and grow and get better at this game. There's people who enjoy it that much that they'll get on every day and play it and grind out more levels. And it's something that social games like social MMOs like World of Warcraft do very well. The reason these worlds have like communal areas like cities is not just because like, yeah, that's the hub of trading, duh. It's because that's the way that you see other players in their very cool gear with their cool titles and mounts, and that's where you get the inspiration that, oh, I need to do that stuff too. I need to be logging in every day to push myself to that extent. And this is a big part of the reason why some of the most sought after things in all of Darktide are titles and borders and cosmetic gear. Like, those things really matter to players, much more so than you would think a lot of times. You know, Darktide is a really good and fun game. Players get a lot of value out of just playing it, but what they really need is something to entice players to, okay, log on today and play 3 missions, right? Unless you really just have that itch to get on and play 3 missions, there's nothing else in the game currently that's telling you like, oh yeah, like this is what you'll get out of doing it. And they have made some progress here. Like, there are penance tracks. The fact they have penances now is kind of nice for that. But outside of that, like, once you've completed the current penance track, which hasn't been updated in a while, by the way, what else is there to keep a player engaged? Not much. I know that they have the in-game mode of Havoc, but Havoc is also a thing that's only really accessible to a very small percentage of players who have a really high skill level. And what if you don't have that skill level, but you still want to play a lot, and you still want to get something out of it? You could do all the penances in the game, but a lot of those require playing all different classes, and maybe you're just a player who, hey, I just want to play Ogryn, and I want to play him as much as possible. Could there be some sort of titles, or could there be leaderboards for people who've completed the most Ogryn missions or spent the most time in mission as Ogryn, or whatever it is? Just little personal hallmarks that give you value for logging on and playing all the time. And this is something I think the reason that they haven't instigated a lot of this, or put a lot of this in the game, is because they, Fatshark, I mean, see their game as more of a casual, pick it up for one weekend, once a month, and play it with your friends for a little bit, and then check on it again in 2 months. And that's great and all, but that doesn't really do anything to help the players, and there are a lot of them who do want to play this game every day. So there should be something to incentivize players who play all the time, or who have a desire to play all the time, to do so. There should be reasons to play and continue to be invested and get value out of Darktide. And I think that's somewhere they could really make a lot of strides, and they could be very creative with this too. I don't have any specific ideas, but more achievements, more achievement tracker progress, more custom cosmetics that are only available for very high levels of commitment to something. That's the sort of way you get people on the hook, and you keep them on the hook for a long time. So with those big ones out of the way, let's talk about some stuff that is internal to Darktide, some stuff that us players who play all the time would be really thrilled to get. And I am notably not going to be including the AdMech in here. Sorry, guys. I do think that AdMech or a new class of some sort is coming in 2026, but I don't think it's one of the most pressing matters for the game. If I could give up getting a new class in 26 and get these other two instead, I would 10 times out of 10. I think these are that important. And let's start with the more important of the two, which is new maps and more map diversity. This is something that has been plaguing Darktide for a long time, and they were making big strides back in 2024 to alleviate this. I think 24 had at least 4 maps released for the game, which was a lot back when the game launched. I think it had about 16 maps or so. So now we're sitting at, I think, 20, 21, 22, and that's just not enough for a game like Darktide that expects you to replay it. That kills people's interest in replaying levels, especially when half of the levels seem to be varying flavors of sewer crawl. So getting a lot of more diverse locales, as I said, map diversity as well as just map quantity is going to be really important. And that's something that, to their credit, I think they've been working on a lot in the last couple releases. We've had Dark Communion, we've had Clandestine Gloriana, and now we have No Man's Land and the Trenches of Atoma. All of these are fabulous maps. They are 3 of my favorites in the game. They're beautiful. They use the lighting in Darktide well, and they really feel different than other maps, than other experiences. So I like that they are looking at the fact they're in a hive city. They have a lot of breadth to draw from here in terms of there are tons of microbiomes and microclimates within the hive city. They found a way to justify there's a snow level, right? That doesn't make any sense. But if you reframe it as it's part of a giant ass cooling system, then yeah, you can get a snow level in Darktide. So they can be as creative as they need to be here, but I would love to get more stuff like the Trenches of Atoma where we are outside of that oppressive sewer/forge ecosystem. And that's something that I am really worried about. They're going to have to jumpstart this and start pretty early in the year with it this year. Players are getting kind of upset about how favorited the Vermintide 2 map development seems to be. And honestly, I think there might be something to that. I don't have any information on it, and I don't want to cast any aspersions where there doesn't need to be. But it really does seem like they said, okay, Darktide is going to launch classes this year and do class rework. So let's go ahead and take our map development resource and put most of it over to Vermintide 2, because we know that most of our work here is going to be on classes. And if that's the case, I think they need to find a way to synergize this and release both maps and class content at the same time. Because if they're going with what I assume their plan is, which is releasing a new class every 6 months, then we're going to have very little time for other actual mainline content for people, especially if the updates start looking more like RBDs, where it was like just the character and then a couple of weapon tweaks on the side. I don't want updates to look like that going forward. Even though new characters are cool, I think that's a worse update for players in general than something that introduces a bunch of new maps or game modes or weapons, because those are more tools that more different classes can play with. Okay, so that's the maps thing discussed. And let's go on to the very last one here, guys. Better enemies. This is something that I have been harping on for a long time. The enemies in Darktide are dumb as bricks. They are super basic, and I understand that this is a horde shooter. You have to keep some of your enemies pretty dang basic, but when you really think about it, how different is a Crusher from a Groaner? A Crusher has about 6 moves, a Groaner has I think 4, and he just has more HP and stuff. So what they could work on in this year, maybe they'll release a new enemy faction that has the diverse ways to play against, etc. That could be one way about this problem, but they could also revisit a lot of these original enemies and make them more interesting, make them have stuff going on that just gives them an additional level of threat or an additional challenge, makes their contribution to that combat puzzle a little bit harder. So a great example of this is how the Flamers, sometime around the launch of Clandestine Gloriana, they added the ability to, if you shoot them in the tank, they become effectively a barrel. And now when you shoot them, everyone around them gets knocked back. Now, previously, it actually made everyone take damage, which is bullshit, but they made it just so you get knocked back. And that is actually quite impactful, because one of those guys detonating at the wrong time can push you off of an objective or rescue an ally or out of position or whatever it might be. So adding little things like that to every enemy in the game, where they have this little idiosyncrasy, little way to tweak playing against them, such as maybe giving crushers weak spots or being able to break their carapace armor so that you're not completely ineffectual if you don't have rending. Those sort of things would go a long way to improving the current cast of enemies without having to create a whole new enemy faction. I think there is probably one set of enemies that in the game right now that I think are actually meeting the standards what I would expect out of engaging Darktide foes, and that is the Karnak twins. Though, of course, they they fight like anime characters, but the Karnak twins are a genuinely exciting challenge. They immediately reframe the fight that you're in because you have Rinda, who is just so dang aggressive, and then you have Rodin, who's back there just lobbing out shit and making the arena a hazard to fight in. They are great contributions to the combat puzzle because of the complexity that they alone bring. And a lot of times when I'm going through my Havoc games and recording and looking for cool clips, I'm really hoping that I'll get a Karnak twins encounter, because that's when you can really see how everything comes together and how cool and how powerful the enemy can feel, and therefore how powerful you can flex yourself against. So we need to have cool enemies that are exciting to fight against, to test our powers with, and I think that is getting more and more true by the day as our characters get more and more powerful. It would make the game a lot more exciting if you had foes that you thought were like dastardly and you really wanted to get rid of, rather than just everybody being the same slow walking duder who has 2 weapon swings. So yeah, maybe that takes the form of a whole new weapon, or a whole new enemy race or faction. Maybe that takes the form of some reworks to existing cast of characters. Who knows, guys? Well, and that's everything. So this is my hopes for 2026. Let me know what your hopes are down in the comments. I think that these are probably in lockstep with a lot of people in the community. As I said, hitting those really big ones first. Stability is just such a fucking issue right now, and I really, really want that to be fixed, but I don't know if it ever can be. I'm just hoping for Darktide 2 to smooth all this stuff out for us. So thank you very much for watching, guys. If you haven't yet, subscribe to the channel, maybe become a member. I really appreciate you guys. Have a great day. I'll see you later on, and have a good one. Bye.